All right, I thought for history's sake, I thought I might do a video on the old VX GTS, the circuit car I used to have. This all relates to reduction of circuit times with modifications. Although it's for the GTS, it's probably very similar to many other cars with regards to time. So I thought I'd just run through it. Anyway, so the GTS, it was a original, of course, VX GTS 300 kilowatt jobby, 2001. So I predominantly bought that car for the open speed limit purposes, and it was a lovely car at the time. So once the speed limit was banned, I started circuit racing. So the mods were done over an 8-year period, and then I sold the car after that. So I'll just run through as each modification was done, and which related to circuit time improvements or not improvements. So 2006 the government stopped the open speed limits and I started circuit racing. So first lap I did, first actually ever time I'd done circuit racing, it was in the GTS, so standard wheels, the 19-inch. Back then they were pretty flash wheels back in 2001, 19-inch wheels. Pirelli P0s on it, which were the stock wheels that come with it, and 1 minute 37 seconds, and I buggered an entire set of brand new tyres, which was really sucky, but there you go, it is what it is. You learn from these things. So when I say round one mods, it just means a group of mods that I did in one sort of hit. So between either race events or in between years. So round one doesn't mean between each circuit racing event, it just means there are modifications grouped up. So I chucked some 18-inch semi-slicks on a proper timing system, and I did a dyno run. So 245, pretty good numbers for a stock car. The GTS, they were pretty fast. So yeah, that went from down to 132 lap times. All the standard Commodore issues with circuit times was power steering, brake fade, understeer, high engine temps, blah blah blah, standard stuff. So anyway, so I started doing some more mods over time. So this was the next grouping of mods I did. So I did the better brake pads, cooler, power steering, braided brake lines to help with fade, and a little bit of suspension stuff, so the cross strut and some high temp fluids, and that dropped me down to 128. So that's just doing tyres and the basic stuff. You went from 137 down to 128. So just better pads. So it's almost 10 seconds over a standard car, just by a very few basic modifications, and consistency as well, because you're getting better pads and all that. So that's nearly 10-second gain there. So next grouping, I started doing some engine work. Got a Marlor tune, the rip shift chucked in, exhaust, better valve springs, the diff cover, which is what they use for increased differential capacity, and better for cooling as well, and a bigger front strut brace and an over radiator intake. That was all sort of done in one tune, and that lifted up to 257. So the GTS was a pretty well tuned car from the get-go, so there actually isn't a lot to gain from a tune on those GTSs, because they're already tuned pretty bloody well. They're not that much to gain. So even with a different exhaust and all that, I only gained bugger all power. Bit more torque, but anyway, so yeah, power not a huge gain. So anyway, typical exhaust and intake, good sounds, shifting's better. But again, the GTS had not a bad shift from the start. So after a fair bit of racing rounds, eventually the front corroders cracked. as in got hairline cracks through them, so they had to be changed. So off I went. So that got me down to 127.3, a little bit more power. So I dropped another second, just with a bit more power and a bit better shifting. So then I went and did some suspension work, got some tines put in there. Those for me, tines are provided on lots of different models. Better brake rotors this time, so I didn't have drilled rotors. There can be issues on high tracks and that's a reason they cracked. Same size and all that. So that got me down another half a second, I suppose. So again, the GTS suspension was pretty good. Even with tines in there, I didn't gain a lot. But the limited slip started giving me grief. So, you know, the car was, gee whiz, at this stage, it was nearly 8 years old. So, and it had done a lot of work out in the open limits, as well as a lot of circuit racing by now. So limited slip was given up. Still battling to get the suspension set right, because the tines are height adjustable, rate adjustable, and yeah, very hard to get them set up properly without a pro doing it. So I did some more tuning, did some more suspension mods. Yeah, didn't gain much. A little bit of speed overall. So what's that? 126, 126. So basically the same time. Now the clutch started giving way, which is typical. A lot of years gone by, a lot of hard on the accelerator work and slowing down under gear, under engine loading as well. So yeah, clutch started giving up, which is expected. So I got a new Tex Z grip clutch in there, braided clutch. That should say clutch lines. I don't know why I got slave, but anyway, that was written wrong. So anyway, I got a little bit of better, slightly better time, but not much. Yep, again, wear and tear started kicking in. Master cylinder, power steering rack issues. So we've got all them replaced. And same times, 126.5. So I was still doing the same times around the tracker then. So next grouping of mods I did, I gave up the ghost trying to get those tines set right for circuits. So I changed springs to a different set of springs and chucked some actual camber in it. So instead of having street settings, I was trial doing some bit more camber on it to give better tyre wear and all that sort of stuff. And some trying to get the engine cool as well. So that gave me a slight increase, half a second I suppose. Engine heating issues and brake temp issues, and eventually I warped the discs, but the tyres were lasting a lot longer. So the next grouping of mods, AP Racing brake system I put on. So I ended up finding a set of them second hand on the standard forum sites. They are proper racing brakes, those ones. They can go all day. The original brakes on the GTS, they just didn't have what it took when you started to put a bit more speed and a bit more heavy braking. So the APs was big brakes, 365s, 350s, 6-piston and 4-piston, and I got a new set of BMW M5 wheels, which are a +20 offset, so you get a big wide wheel track, which means you have to modify the guards a bit as well. Finally got a new diff center put in there as well, proper limited slip, and I got some heavy duty axles in there because the old ones were starting to get a bit of slop in them. Slight increase, another half a second a lap average improvement. So, again, the difference was I could do that over many laps over the whole day. So with the decent brakes and proper cooling systems and all that, it was really good. I could do 125s consistently throughout the day's racing. So engine temps again, because simply in Darwin it's hot. So anyway, so I was doing 125s consistently now, and it was time to get some safety mods put in there. So I installed a bolt in, bolt out 6-point roll cage. Got all the Commodore subframe connectors put in, big heavy duty front strut brace and rear strut brace across the rear shocks as well, and proper race harness fitted and a tail shaft loop. Again, not a lot of gain. Basically I added about 80 kilograms of weight to the car doing this job. So that with all the roll cage and all that other bits, it's about an extra 80 kilograms of weight. So, yep, gained about another half a second, but again, very consistent, and you could do that for hours on end, so, which was good. Yep, right, so I installed an engine oil cooler to try and get the engine temps better, and a new brake duct system, just to look after those APs. They were working great, never had issues, but I wanted to make sure I don't damage the very expensive rotors. So again, same time, not a lot of difference, but I did start doing some data monitoring, and I found that oil pressure on those corners was dropping very bloody low. It was very low. So on some of the hard corners, so I had to do something about that. On Gumtree, I found a V8 supercar wing from the Go-Karts Go V8 supercar. They were selling all their gear and upgrading to the VY gear, so they had to get rid of all their VX gear. So I ended up getting a genuine, straight up V8 supercar wing and boot. So that was all carbon fibre and the whole lot. Pretty flash, special bit of kit. Chucked the sump baffle in, oil catch can installed, and I got a proper LM2, whatever they call it, engine monitoring gear. So that was all fitted. So I could actually monitor everything during races. So again, not a lot of speed, basically no speed difference. Handling slightly different, but with any change with suspension and aero, it takes time to set up. So this is where things started changing, quite a significant difference. So I ended up putting in a bunch of applications through businesses to get sponsorship, because it was getting expensive and the car was very consistent, lapping really well. I thought, well, let's see if I can get some stickers on this car. So I sold to a local construction company who were building high-rises, and they obviously wanted a bit of sponsorship, which was good. So they're environmental, all their buildings are environmental friendly and all that, and then got Green Star ratings. So I sold them on doing an LPG system on a circuit racing car and putting in an 8 throttle body intake. So I got some sponsorship, which was awesome. So I did some mods, left the internals alone basically, but as in the rotating assembly on the engine, that was left. But everything else was changed, so 8 throttle body, liquid injection, new cam, push rods, valve springs, blah, blah, blah. All the standard stuff you do to an LS1. Got a different radiator in, underdrive pulleys, and I went to the RE55 Slemmy Slicks. So that took about 5 months to do, because the car went down to Melbourne and then it come back. So it was down in Melbourne for about 5 months to do those engine job mods and all that. It was one of the first liquid injection systems to actually be a performance system for LS1s, that was, and liquid injection. So anyway, as you can see, basically no time difference. So, you know, there was multiple issues after getting the car back. The tuning was done in Melbourne at 8 degrees, but when I got to Darwin, it was 38 degrees. So the car was tuned down there at 320 real world kilowatts, but when it got up here, 38 degrees, it was pulling all the power out. So the tuning was just very nice down there, but useless as buggery up here. Bloody hopeless. So power-wise, nowhere near what they were making down south. So gearbox started playing up too. By now, this is about year 6, I think, by now, of circuit racing. So, you know, she's been out there a long, long time. Gearbox basically started giving up, and clutch giving up again. Got it retuned, so I got 283 out of it. That's the most I could get out of it. Full rebuild of the gearbox, all the standard stuff to rebuild a gearbox, and I did a shortened ratio 5th and 6th gear, which was cool. And I got a new lower ratio diff installed, diff gears. So I got 411s in there. A lot of that stuff was pretty new to the market as it was coming out. It was sort of development stuff as well. And I had sponsorship, of course. So gained a bit out of that. You know, you're talking quite a significant. That was nearly over 125.3 to 124.1. So bit over 1.5, bit over 1 second. So, you know, with a better ratio 5th and 6th and a better ratio diff, it actually worked out really well. Gained a bit over a second just by doing that, and a tune. Again, yeah, all day, race all day, beautiful. So then needed to get some comfort into there, so I got a custom made race seat. Because I'm 6'9", they don't make race seats for me, so I had to get one custom made. And I got a proper 5-point harness put in there. So as you can see, that was over nearly 1.5 second improvement just by putting a race seat in and a harness. Quite extraordinary that when you don't have to hang onto the wheel and you just concentrate on steering the bloody thing and brake, and it's amazing how you can drop 1.5 seconds just by being comfortable in the car. So, you know, if you do want to do a simple mod and you've got your basic setup done on your car, I tell you what, a race seat makes a monstrous difference. And that was consistent all day, just a race seat, amazing. So the issue, the tape race tail shaft vibration, the center, it's a 2-piece shaft, so there's a center section on the Commodores that always gave grief. So I, instead of getting all that replaced, I did a new to market G-Force carbon fiber 1-piece tail shafts were being brought out in the US for these cars. So I bought one of them, which was phenomenal, full-on carbon fiber 1-piece tail shaft. Crazy. Yep, about the same speed, not a lot, because I didn't really do anything different. And I just put in a reverse cowl on the bonnet just for coolness, nothing more than that, and it looked awesome. So next lot, so I did it. I got rid of the tines, put some Bilsteins in there. It's a set come up for sale second hand. That gave me a lot more camber and caster and toe and all that stuff. And I got some even bigger front and rear sway bars and some K-frame front camber mod done. So I did a bunch of mods so that I could get a lot more camber and a lot more better tyre wear on the car. So this way the semi slicks could last a lot longer than changing them every 6 months. Again, not a lot of difference in speed, but I stuffed up. This is where I blew up the engine. So I blew the engine because I was fixing an O-ring, and one of the bolts that were on the fuel rail inadvertently fell down one of the tunnel rams on the 8th throttle body, and I didn't even notice, and that went into the engine and it fried it, killed it. So I got a second-hand engine and did all the swap over of parts that were still good. So anything good on the old engine, I swapped all that over and put it in the new engine. Second-hand engine that was. So I got that tuned, and that was ended up being 270. So yeah, gained a little bit of speed out of that. So I think that engine, because it was a bit fresher than my one, hadn't had such a hard life. It was a nicer engine. Bit less power, but yeah, more torque. So I gained a bit of time on that, just by a different engine. So it is what it is. So got the engine retuned again, so I was up to 287, and yeah, slightly better time as expected with a bit more power. So this time the LPG system, the PCM, actually failed and stopped punching through to number 6. So no fuel, no gas going to number 6. So she absolutely exploded. Big white smoke out the back of the car. I've got it on one of my videos there. It's crazy. And sponsorship ended at this point too. So the next lot was LPG system. I threw that away, but I found a new sponsor. But it was only half the price. So I got another engine installed. This time I paid for a brand new one. Got it tuned. Got a bigger radiator in there. Got a bit quicker. 121.3. Clutch was slipping. Shifter leakage issues. CVs was shot by then. This is another year, a couple of years, of course. Round 20, so the final year, this is the last year of the GTS, so new sponsor ended after 2 years. I chucked the clutch in, rip shifter, G-force, new axles, and the last round, this is literally the last race I ever did, so I got some new tyres on it, and got proper camber, and I did a full-on max attack, so that was into the mid 120s. New PV set, new street car lap record set. So pretty good. So yeah, it was quite good. Got it. Did a couple of drag racings. The best I did was 13.1 at 111, only because it was very hard to get off the line. So yeah, and that was the end of the GTS. And I sold her for a thumping 20 grand. Seems like it seemed a lot at the time, but considering there wasn't much left of the actual original car, it was all right, I suppose. So there's some times in the comparison. You've got the Commodore Cup cars do the 123, 124 around Hidden Valley. The fastest local improved productions did 120s. They were full, proper race cars, and the V8 supercars back then did 110s. So yeah. Anyway, so that's the story on the mods I did and the time. So overall, 137 down to 137 lap times down to 1 minute 20 lap times. So 17-second lap improvements with very little horsepower increase. So only 40 kilowatts was the max I had, was the difference between stock and with all the work I did. So I was very lucky to get sponsorship, so a lot of this didn't come out of my pocket. But I did a lot of work for the sponsors as well. Anyway, so that's the story. Hope this is enlightening to some people. Anyway, thank you very much.